A drug epidemic responsible for killing more than 100,000 Americans last year. The House voting this week to stop the flow of fentanyl made in China and coming over our border from Mexico. Take a look at this recent tweet from Fox News' Bill Malugin at the border. 1.6 million fentanyl pills and nearly 5 pounds of fentanyl powder confiscated over 3 days by Border Patrol in Nogales, Arizona. It had been smuggled into the United States with 5 different vehicles, hidden inside a computer printer, the dash, and spare tires. Joining me right now is House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Congressman, it's great to see you this weekend. Thanks so much for being here.
Always great to be back with you, Maria. Thank you.
Wow, this is so disturbing, the fentanyl flow. Tell us what this bill does. You passed it in the House. Thank you for this legislation.
No, thank you. And look, the Halt Fentanyl Act is really focused on addressing this problem that is one of the many bad side effects of President Biden's open border. You know, Marie, we started seeing this flood of fentanyl coming across the southern border as soon as Joe Biden came into office. You know, basically said the border's open. You saw caravans of people. But what you also saw is the drug cartels from Mexico taking over operational control of our border. So China makes the fentanyl. They send it to Mexico. It gets laced into all of these different drugs. Maybe you think you're buying Xanax online or something else, even like the little Skittles looking things. And then next thing you know, somebody takes it and they don't wake up. And it's killing about 150 young people a day. It's a major crisis. Joe Biden is completely ignoring it because he knows the only real solution is to actually close the southern border. But what we did is we came together. You saw very bipartisan support for this bill to say, let's at least schedule it as a Class 1 controlled substance so that it can be dealt with more seriously for the deadly drug that it is.
Well, look, I mean, at this point, we see over and over again a completely soft response by Joe Biden to communist China. This is one more issue that China is doing, undermining the United States. I mean, what are they trying to do? Kill off Americans? I don't understand why they would be sending this fentanyl into Mexico and into the United States.
Right. And Maria, this is very deliberate. Everybody in the world knows what fentanyl is doing. China knows it, and they're making it. They're making it at labs all throughout China, and then they're sending it to Mexico, knowing it's going to come across our open southern border, and then ultimately it's going to kill young people. Again, 150 young people will die today from fentanyl. Another 150 will die tomorrow. Imagine if a plane fell out of the sky every single day. By the end of the week, Joe Biden would shut down the entire aviation system until they figured it out. And yet he knows why this is happening. It's because he's got an open southern border. So because of that, he just hopes it'll go away, that the press won't cover it. I appreciate that you've been covering this. And unfortunately, it's touching families in every community.
Yeah.
There's not a community in America, Maria. I get, we have school groups that come up to the Capitol all the time.
Yeah.
I had a high school group recently, and I asked all the kids, do any of you know someone who died of fentanyl? Every single kid raised their hand. Wow. This is going on all over America, and it's a tragedy, and it's preventable.
We're also learning new details about the IRS's investigation into independent journalist Matt Taibbi last December. So the IRS opens an investigation into Matt Taibbi and his 2018 tax returns on Christmas Eve, the same day he blew the whistle on FBI collusion with Twitter, and that they also showed up at his house. Watch this.
This was somehow politically motivated. At least it has the appearance of that. This is quite brazen, what they're doing. I mean, they had to know that this was going to come out. Also visiting me on at my home on the day I'm testifying before Congress. That shows you that they're probably not terribly worried about the optics of all this, which I think is even more concerning.
Wow. Jim Jordan is launching an investigation into this. He told me that there's no way this is a coincidence, Congressman. You also had the IRS whistleblower who was removed from the Hunter Biden tax probe. He testified behind closed doors to the House. What's going on at the IRS?
You know, and we saw this same playbook under President Obama. Remember when they went after Tea Party groups? At the very beginning of the Tea Party movement, they sicked the IRS on a lot of these Tea Party groups that were starting because this is an abuse of government power. It's why we started the Weaponization Committee. You see Chairman Jordan all over it. Chairman Jamie Comer is on this as well. We're getting whistleblowers come forward. But this is going on. And by the way, this is the same IRS that Joe Biden wants to double the size of, adding another 87,000 IRS agents. Has anybody in America asked Congress to increase the size of the IRS, let alone more than double it, to go after people like this journalist, or to go after lower and middle income families, which they're going to be doing if they get their way. It's one of the fights that we're having to try to defund that.
Yeah, I think it's a great point to bring up because right now you've only got about 15,000 border agents, and yet he wants 87,000 additional IRS agents, taking that up to well above 100,000 agents. Senator Tim Scott and Governor Ron DeSantis now joining the race for president this week. Have you made a decision on who you'll be endorsing?
No, I mean, obviously, we've been very focused on moving this bold conservative agenda through the House. You know, we passed a major border security package. We just talked about the fentanyl act. We're dealing with a lot of inflationary bills that we're going to move to reduce inflation and get red tape under control in Washington. A major energy bill, the Lower Energy Cost Act, already passed. Look, you know, I know all these folks. Tim Scott and I served together. Ron DeSantis and I served together. Of course, when Donald Trump was president, I got to work very closely with him, and we did some major things to turn our country around. We've got to take our country back. We've got to win the White House next year. So having that robust debate during the primaries is critically important. But at the end, we need to win next year and get the White House and the Senate back and grow our numbers in the House. And I think all those things will happen. But in the meantime, the House is going to continue doing our job fighting for those hardworking families who've been left behind for too long by all these big government socialists.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, President Trump is in the lead in these polls, beating out Ron DeSantis. But what's your take on who can best beat Joe Biden? Would Trump beat Joe Biden, or would DeSantis beat Joe Biden?
Well, in polling I've seen recently, actually both Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis beat Joe Biden. You look, Democrats don't want Joe Biden on the ticket. You know, frankly, I think he ought to be on the ticket, so he has to answer to voters for the many crises and failures that our country has witnessed on his watch. He's created all of these crises: an energy crisis, an inflation crisis, a border crisis. Internationally, the world is on fire, and the bad guys, China, Russia, Iran, are on the move, all unchecked because Joe Biden has checked out. I think the country's hungry for a change. We're going to have to get back to bold conservatism, you know, governing the way people expect and want to see this country run.
All right, we'll be watching. It's great to see you, Congressman. Thanks very much.